Welcome to Martial Mentality, a martial arts inspired podcast. Today I have with me Mr. Brian Cobble. Welcome back, Brian.
I'm back, guys.
And our special guest, Mr. Khali Myles-Jones.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Khali, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I joined the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu 5.5 years ago. During COVID, when everything was shut down, and we needed to get something. We needed something to do. We needed to get out the house. So we found you guys on Google, rolled up, and instantly became family. So I've been training with Sifu Del Mar for a little over 5 years now. Took a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back in it. And then by trade, I work in the automotive repair business. So.
And you're also married.
Yeah, I am married.
How long have you been married?
It'll be 5 years in November.
Are you serious?
Wait, it has been that long.
Whoa,
Holy crap.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oops.
Well, congratulations. Jeez, man. You're making me feel old. I remember when you got married.
Yeah.
Crap.
We had a party here.
I remember.
Yeah. It was during COVID, so I couldn't have a big wedding. So
Oh my
we had
God.
a party here.
Well, geez. Well, thanks for making me feel my age, Khali. I appreciate it. So our topic today, guys, is going to be fun. Anime and martial arts. Yes. I've been wanting to do this one for so long. And I want to start with you, Khali. Well, first off, can you explain to some people out there who maybe don't know what anime is, which I'm sure is rare in today's society, but what is anime, if you don't mind explaining?
So anime, which it was originally westernized as Japanimation was the term for it, and then it got shortened to anime. But it's also just the Japanese term for animation, but it refers to basically Japanese or Eastern media, because some of those genres branch outside of Japan, whether it's Okinawa, the southern region of China, and some of the Philippines in that region as well. But it's animation from that area of the world that is known for high quality visuals, really detailed scenery background, usually hand painted backgrounds and stuff like that. Things that you don't typically see in Western animation. They've got more detailed characters, and they have a lot of tropes such as like keyframes, where they pan through the backgrounds and stuff to make it seem like things are moving when they're not actually moving. And then also there's a lot of like over the top culture. If you talk to people who are native Japanese speakers, they'll tell you that anime, the way they speak Japanese in anime is more akin to like the dramatized stuff you'd see in like a telenovela. Almost, where things are kind of over the top. So it's not really conducive of the natural language you see in that region, but it's a characterization of the genre is to be kind of over the top and bold and explosive. And that's not really culturally how they speak or how they interact over there.
Interesting. That was a very detailed answer. Do you want to add on to that with anything?
I'm not sure what I can add.
I know, right? Like he gave a very good detailed answer of what anime is.
Well, unfortunately, I was president of Anime Club in high school.
There we go. That makes more sense. I will say that it does focus a lot on their manga, and usually those things being brought into animation. So it's stories that have already been written, and they're generally being expanded upon.
Would you explain what manga is to people who may not know what that is?
I'm going to give you the simplest answer. It's Japanese comic books. Those are or graphic novels. They're used. It's the same way nowadays. But it's either Japanese comics or Japanese graphic novels. Basically, things that are highly detailed, tell a story, and are generally an ongoing publication through chapters and books.
So basically, we have the comic book side, and then we have the animation side. Okay, and usually the comic book side is being adapted into animation, sometimes live action, but we don't want to get into that.
Please don't,
because live action normally doesn't go well. But anyway, so guys, let's just kind of freely talk about this. So, what anime are martial arts inspired in your opinion? Would you say, like, of course we'll say Dragon Ball.
Okay, so that's the one that most people are going to know, because that's what Western culture realizes as anime most of the time. That's when they think it started. Real anime started with, I think, Astro Boy. That's not really martial arts. What I think of as the real quintessential martial arts anime, and you're going to back me up on this, I know, is Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple.
I would agree with that. That's one of them. There's others, but I would say that's one of the top 10.
For me, that's probably that is at the top of the list. Everything else will subsequently fall under for various reasons. But Kenichi, I can actually look at and point to you specific instances. Okay, this is something that martial arts does. And if you go do it, it will work.
You can watch Kenichi the Mightiest Disciple, and you actually can learn concepts from real martial arts in the show, even though it's animated.
And the best part is, it's more than one.
Yeah, because he has 6 masters in the show. So for anybody interested, if you like martial arts and you want to watch something with your kids, that one's actually a pretty kid-friendly one to watch.
So quick rundown then, I'll give you a real blank summary. Kenichi is terrible at martial arts. He wants to learn how to do it, but he sucks. And he is taken in for various reasons that will become apparent in the show by 6 what they call hidden masters. And they think that the greatest accomplishment they can have is to teach the person with 0 aptitude martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And the story goes from there, and I'm being intentionally vague because there's actually some good points in it. But I think that's a good, succinct answer while still keeping everybody kind of informed.
And I actually think, just kind of randomly, I think they're going to continue either the
They are.
manga. I don't know if they've talked about continuing the anime.
The manga will continue and started, I think, like last week.
Okay. So, Khali, what to you is a martial arts inspired anime, or what are your suggestions?
So I'm going to date myself here because I'm a little bit younger than the two of you. I would honestly say that anime is what inspired me to take up martial arts. It was what made me think, hey, this is cool. I want to learn how to do that stuff.
He really enjoys making me feel old.
Yeah. So the first
Bastard.
anime I saw, and this is a bit of an older anime, but I was really young when I saw it. The first anime I saw that got me interested in martial arts was Cowboy Bebop.
Really?
Yeah.
I know it's seen too.
Yeah, and I mean it was the way that Spike Spiegel specifically, he would very casually, disarm his opponents and take them down without really putting a whole lot of effort into it. He was very fluid and seamless. But I remember seeing it come on Toonami when I was really, really young. And I remember being bored to tears by the show up until the point that he would fight people, Like I would ignore all the plot. I had no idea what they were talking about. And then as soon as they started shooting bullets and he was dancing around and kicking people in the face, I was like, yeah, that guy, I want to be like him. So Cowboy Bebop was one of the first ones that inspired me to be like interested in martial arts at a young age. And then shortly thereafter is when Naruto debuted in the US.
Okay.
And that was like the sticking point.
Okay. Yeah. You're definitely a younger anime watcher. Yeah.
Which, mind you, I mean, it has been 20 years since Naruto debuted.
Well,
in the US.
younger
Yeah.
compared to me and Brian. But for me, God, what anime was it? It wasn't anime. I've talked about this on the show. It was really tokusatsu. So, of course, Power Rangers is nothing more than tokusatsu. But
yeah, that's fair.
If I had to pick one, I mean, it's got to be Dragon Ball. It's got to be Dragon Ball. I mean, Dragon Ball is the martial arts anime, in my opinion.
He says this, you can't see The Office. There would be no doubt if you could.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, everybody from my generation wanted to be Goku. And during that time frame of the late 90s, early 2000s is when anime kind of started to boom, because nobody really watched it before then. There was only like a subset of people who watched it. And I happened to be part of that subset because like it would come on early morning sometimes. I mean, you remember Pokemon coming on
the Saturday morning cartoons.
Yes.
I mean, I was the one that saw Speed Racer, Road Warriors.
Yep. Speed
I
Racer.
saw all those things. I saw Gundam. Voltron
would come on, So like a lot of people, like anime was out, but people didn't know it as anime. What was another one that it was called War of the Worlds here, but in Japan they called it Gatchaman. So that used to come on, and a lot of people didn't know. I didn't know it was anime. I was just like, oh, look at this cartoon. But like they would totally like switch the whole storyline around for Americans. And so, it would come on, and I really like the storytelling. I think that's what makes anime better than American animation. And a lot of times the storytelling is stronger and they talk about more adult themes, even though they may use,
an animated medium,
younger characters or over the top media. So I enjoy the storytelling. So of course, I mean, for me, Dragon Ball is the quintessential martial arts anime, with Kenichi being behind it, in my opinion.
That's fair. I mean, since we're talking about, we'll pull some older things since the younger kid is here. Another one that I really consider will be Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh yeah, that one's good.
But not because it's martial arts. It's straight street fighting. If you pay attention to the main character, Yusuke doesn't know how to fight as far as training goes. He knows how to fight because he doesn't want to lose.
He's a street brawler.
Yeah, his entire method of fighting is I will just take your hits and punch you harder. But it is something to consider.
Quali, have you watched and I know this is a martial arts based anime, so maybe you can speak on it, like Baki or King and Ashura?
I have seen bits and pieces of Baki.
Okay.
Baki.
I haven't watched it.
You should, for the fact of the martial arts and the way they approach some of them are interesting. Baki, I'm going to spoil some of it, but Baki is a really good character for martial arts. He is the guy that can learn it by seeing it.
Okay.
And he can learn it by visualizing. And that's how a lot of his fights go. So they get, at least Baki gets somewhat strategic with his thinking. And it's a higher level of fighting, in my opinion, because of that.
I just had a thought. So let me piggyback off of your Naruto. So here's the thing about Naruto that I enjoy from a martial arts standpoint. The thing that Naruto does that Dragon Ball doesn't do is that Naruto actually had, at one point in the series, showcased the characters who weren't as strong using strategy to beat stronger opponents. And in that sense, that for me, that applied to my martial arts, because you would watch like Naruto, he only knows like one move for like most of the series, but he can use that move like hundreds of different ways to defeat opponents that he should not be defeating. And I thought that was really neat. And so same thing with martial arts, you may know a few techniques, but if you understand how to apply those techniques a certain type of way
and apply them well,
yes, then with strategy and tactics, you can win a lot of battles. And so with that, in mind, that you just made me think about that. That was one reason I was drawn to Naruto. Mm-hmm. Also, too, I like the fact that they make the characters, a lot of them are relevant. They're not just side characters. Like there's a purpose of why this person is in the show. Sometimes Dragon Ball, unfortunately, it's the Goku and Vegeta show.
Yeah.
They kind of forget about everybody else, and I don't.
Yeah,
like
and it's kind of weird the way that Dragon Ball does that. I mean, original Dragon Ball, the first series, was a lot better about giving some of the side characters more screen time and more relevance to the story. And their involvement in the interactions they were having there kind of felt more impactful. And then you get into Z, and what you end up finding is, you have these characters that the story is centered around, and then everybody else is present for what's happening, but not really.
They're just there to watch.
Yeah, they're not contributing. And I hate to see the story go that way because it is so iconic, but I feel like Toriyama was fiercely defensive of Goku as a character. There was at one point while the Dragon Ball manga was still being written, where after the Cell Saga, Goku wasn't supposed to come back. Gohan was supposed to be the character that led the series going forward. And there was so much public backlash at the idea of Goku not returning that he wrote him back into the story to appease his fans.
I was going to say, enough death threats will do that.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I like about Naruto is that Naruto has such a large cast of fully fleshed out characters, and they all kind of feel important. One thing I do like about Naruto from a martial arts perspective is that Naruto possesses what we call battle IQ. And Goku kind of showcases that as well, where he'll do kind of weird and out of the box things to overcome overwhelming opponents. But anytime Goku's on screen, he's always either the strongest or the second strongest character to appear on screen at that point in time. And anytime a stronger character appears, his ultimate path to victory ends up being the fact that he ultimately ends up becoming stronger than them. Whereas for, I will say, the majority of the run of Naruto, he was the underdog, all the way up through the Chunin exams, even I would say going through the rescuing Sasuke arc, Naruto was, I would say, on the bottom half tier of all the characters in which he found himself surrounded by, at least the ones in his age group. and then you compare him to some of the adults, and he's like way below there. So Naruto, he had the Kyuubi spirit, he had the nine-tailed chakra, he had all these other, they call them MacGuffins, plot devices that helped him overcome kind of harder situations that he got himself in. But that aside, he never really relied on that. He always had to push through and kind of like rely on his own wits and his own kind of strength of will to overcome whatever it was he was encountering at that time. I think a really good example of that is during the Chunin exams with the Gaara fight. That's a fight where he was severely overmatched. If you were to rank all of the students that took place in that particular portion of the story, I would say out of 20, he was probably somewhere around the 10 or 11 mark in terms of strength and just raw power. Aside from chakra reserves, which is a whole different story. I mean, if you have all the power in the world, but you can't control it, it doesn't really help you out there. But, he went from being in the bottom half of all of these characters to taking on who was unarguably number one at the time, just purely out of one, strength of will, and two, outsmarting him. He found a way to overcome the massive gap in their strength and kind of use that to his advantage in a way to say, I will not lose, and ultimately that strength that he displayed there was a turning point for the character Gaara himself. He saw this underdog, come up against him against all odds, someone who should have been terrified of him, who should have been running for the hills, would have been, I need to get a Jonin, this is way above my level, kind of take him head on and say, no, I'm going to stop you here and now because my friends depend on it. He stood his ground there, and that personally speaks out a lot to me, to find yourself in a situation where you feel so overwhelmed, but you stand your ground because that's what your conviction tells you to do. So I really like that particular aspect of Naruto, is just his way to kind of commit himself to have a goal, to see his way through that goal and not let anything or anyone tell him otherwise that he can't accomplish it.
So one thing I definitely like, you kind of segue into, and I know we all feel like this. I believe, like, granted, we all know that we can't like throw energy blasts and do stuff like that, but like the concepts, the over the top anime concepts do apply to what we do. Like tonight, I actually taught somebody how to actually relax and throw a better technique by speaking anime to them. And I said, how do you throw a fireball? How do you throw energy? And they did it like they would do it in an anime. And I was like, that's the way you need to be punching. That's the way you need to be throwing your technique. Do you feel that reverberation? Do you feel a relaxation that you have? As crazy as that sound, that actually worked, because, I mean, like you guys said, there's a lot of real life concepts that we are seeing in the media. They're just being, dramatized and made in science fiction means in order to be entertaining, of course, but it's so interesting how, like, I'll watch an anime and I'm looking for things that I can actually take from that anime in my life. Like you just said with Naruto. Naruto was clearly outmatched by Gaara, but he used his brain in order to beat somebody stronger than him. And then on the flip side with Goku, you're right. Goku is usually like the second strongest. And normally he will push past his limits to become stronger. But then that's another aspect of martial arts too, because we're always having to push past the limit. We get to a point and then we kind of plateau, and then we need to push past that limit and keep going. But I mean, there's just so many things. I mean, we could probably talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but Brian, what about you as far as like, what would you say, what anime character inspires you the most?
Oh, we're going with inspiration now.
Like if you think about like martial arts, you go like, I think this character, I want to be like that guy.
So I'm going to pull from Hunter x Hunter for this because two reasons. One, I think it actually does work for martial arts anime. And two, I enjoy someone who plans out what they're going to do and who can think strategically as it's going on.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
Kurapika.
Yes.
Yes.
So I like Kurapika, and I like Gon because he does the same thing. He just does it in a much more direct manner. But I like both of those characters because they go into a fight, they know what they can do, and when there's a fight early on in the show where Gon goes against Hisoka for the second time. Ahsoka being one of the villains for the show. For those of you who don't know,
I knew you were going here. As soon as you said that, I in my mind, I saw the scene you were referring to. I was like, I know exactly what he's referring to.
And they're in an arena and they fight. And I don't want to give everything away, but I will give this part of the scene away. They start breaking the arena. And Gon realizes that he can use this.
I remember that. I remember that
so
scene.
Gon
I remember
being,
that.
like 3 feet tall because he's a 12-year-old kid or something, throws a rock and manages to hide behind it. So Ahsoka doesn't see him anymore. And while he's hiding behind this rock, Ahsoka just casually kind of knocks it out of the way, and there's Gon waiting to try and strike. Now, ultimately, he lost that fight to a much better prepared, better experienced fighter, but he didn't give up that fight. He just lost. And that's something that you don't see in anime a lot, especially of the protagonist. They don't lose. Not when it can matter. That's why I like Gon for that. Kurapika, on the other hand, was just God's gift to strategy.
Yes.
Also had the coldest moment in the entire show when he showed up with
a shovel. So there's a scene, for those of you who've never watched Hunter x Hunter, where Kurapika is one of the good guys, and he wants to get revenge on one of the bad guys. I'm not going to spoil it.
For personal reasons that are completely justified.
Yes, but he shows up to the fight with a shovel. Like, he basically tells the guy, like, I'm going to dig your grave. So
he doesn't basically tell
him. We don't want to spoil it. I don't want to tell you what happens. But if you watch the show, that is probably one of the most entertaining fights in the show. I like that fight.
It's rank. If you look on any kind of like ranking of fights, it is one of the higher ones.
I love that fight.
It's a great fight.
I love that fight.
I will say it's kind of one-sided, but it is a good fight nonetheless.
But it's one-sided because of what you said. Strategy.
No, it's one-sided because he got a busted power.
Well, that too, but
he was smarter than
he was
his opponent.
smart. He was smart. He wasn't just, I mean, technically his opponent, I think, was, in my opinion, stronger, but Kurapika knew how to use his abilities.
You need to watch that fight again.
Okay, I'll rewatch it.
You need to watch that fight.
I remember it. I remember.
That was almost as one-sided as Aizen stopping the fucking music with one finger.
I actually did watch that fight like 3 days ago.
What, Aizen?
No, the one with Kurapika.
Okay.
And, the unnamed character.
So do you want to speak on it since?
I will say, I mean, from a strategy standpoint, it was a good fight. I do feel like there was a little bit too much plot armor there. I did want to circle back, though, to the original example you used with going in the arena. And the one thing that really stood out to me about that scene in particular was a promise those two characters had made earlier in the show, where he said, I will give you this back when you can land a hit on me. And when he pulls off, that really genius IQ level move, they stop the fight entirely in that moment, walk up to each other, and he hands it to him.
He did accomplish his goal. You are correct. I will give Gon that credit. He did accomplish his goal. In that fight, he still lost the fight.
Yeah.
I think, for me, one of my inspirations from martial arts is from a newer anime. I'm not going to use any Dragon Ball characters. I mean, I have people from Dragon Ball.
What?
But
what? Hold on a second.
I'm not going to use any Dragon Ball characters. I think the one person that really motivates me or inspires me is Kyojuro Rengoku from Demon Slayer.
Oh, that's fair.
Kyojuro Rengoku was clearly outmatched. Clearly, he should not have even been able to step to the enemy that he was facing. But the resolve that he had in that moment and his character did not waver is something that spoke to me, because especially like when you're leading people and like if you're teaching martial arts and things like that, you kind of got to be like that sometimes, because sometimes you're going to have those moments where you're just feeling maybe you're not feeling adequate, or maybe you're not feeling, up to snuff, or you're tired, or you're hurting, or you're overwhelmed. And you have to still come inside your studio, your dojo, or wherever you're training. And you have to sometimes be that uplifting
you have
spirit.
To deliver.
You got to deliver, right? And you can't falter. You can't show your students that you are being beat down by life. It happens sometimes. You're human, but like you need to keep a good attitude and a good spirit and face about yourself. And I think he does that in this scene where he's fighting one of the 12 Kizuki. For those of you who've never watched Demon Slayer, the 12 Kizuki are like really, really like bad demons. Like they're really strong. And the humans are basically trying to fight the demons. So Rengoku is one of the Hashira that are part of this corps called the Demon Slayers, and they're trying to basically beat the demons. So in a nutshell. But either way, and one thing that I like about Rengoku, if you watch the show, his effect affects so many characters.
It's a really good sign or scene of a really, you don't see a lot of him. He's a really minor character that has a very echoing
Right. He echoes
effect
throughout the whole series. The main character, other characters. And like, I love the way the show will bring him back up and how like people learn something from him and then they use it or he inspires them. And so I guess from a teacher standpoint, that really speaks to me. And plus that he uses fire and the fact that like I associate Northern Shaolin with fire. And we should
thank you, Avatar. We'll never shake that one.
I was gonna say we probably should bring up Avatar, even though that's not anime per se. But in this respect, I would say Kyojuro Rengoku is my motivation, my inspiration. Yeah.
So I'm gonna build off of that there, because you did mention Resolve, and while we're talking about newer anime, I will say one thing that I find refreshing about Jujutsu Kaisen in particular is the stakes that a lot of the conflicts they have there have, and how vulnerable they make the main character. I've recently rewatched it, and as I'm going through, you see Yuji Itadori, who is the protagonist of this show, get hurt a lot, and he doesn't always know that he's going to recover from what he's doing. There's many moments in that show where he is perfectly okay with dying in that moment to kind of protect what he stood for.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning of the show, not to really spoil it, but we're talking episode 1 here. At the beginning of the show, he's basically given a death sentence, and he's kind of given an opportunity to delay his own death by basically giving back to the ones that gave him the death sentence. They said, you can do this task for us and we will let you live a little bit longer. And he doesn't do it because he wants to live, but he does it because he wants to die on his own terms. And he constantly finds himself overwhelmed and in situations where, he's kind of outmatched, and he perseveres and he kind of suffers through pain and injury and all these other debilitating things, because normally in those situations, he's trying to protect someone or trying to give someone else an opportunity to live. And that's kind of what drives him, and it kind of speaks from him as a character. You see a lot of character from anime that go through all these different fights in the seasons. I'll use Goku as an example here. If you look at Goku late into the series, we'll say Z, GT, Super, whatever you want to call it, you don't really see any scars on Goku. You don't see anything that defines him from his failures or the battles he's lost. Anytime he gets severely injured, either the Dragon Balls come in or somebody's got a magic bag of beans that just heals all the cuts and bruises on him. When you get late into the show with Jujutsu Kaisen, Yuji wears his scars proudly. You see the scars on his face, on his cheek, the scars on his arms. There's times when he's severely lost use of parts of his limbs, and he recovers, he heals, but they always remain a part of him. Another anime that does that really well, I will say, is My Hero Academia, which kind of gets a bad rap sometimes, and it is a little cheesy, I'll give it that. But they did a really good job of showing that the decisions that Midoriya makes in that show do kind of affect him long term. And you'll see in later seasons, as he's just walking casually, he'll have his arms and legs just covered in bruises and scars from, I won't say the mistakes, but the choices that he's made.
Right.
He made those choices knowing they would injure him, knowing that they would cause long-term damage to them. But because it was conducive to the goal or the people that he chose to protect in that moment, he was willing to accept it.
It was worth it for him.
Exactly.
And I know it sounds wild, but I think it's really cool. I think this generation of people now have found anime, and I think they find it inspiring. And the cool thing about us doing martial arts and watching anime is a lot of times, like, yeah, we see the energy blast and people powering up and stuff. But like, we see examples of that sometimes when we go to competitions and tournaments, and even in class, when you see somebody push past their limits or somebody do something amazing or somebody have that moment where you can see that they broke through and they reached a new level. I mean, to me, that is just like watching a real life anime. Like, I'm like, oh, look, you reached the next level of Super Saiyan. Or, oh my gosh, like,
level up.
You unlocked the 8th gate, like, look what you just did. And so for me, that's one reason, like, I really enjoy anime, because it does, this is going to sound stupid, but it gives me hope. Like, I have hope when I watch things like that, because I see examples of that stuff in real life. And so it's cool to be entertained by it, but also to be experiencing firsthand, helping people just become better people and just reach newer heights and things of that nature. So, I mean, I guess that's probably part of the reason why I really like anime. It's entertaining, but it also is, I don't know, it can be inspiring. Different than, I guess, than an American cartoon, because American cartoons are kind of like silly.
Yeah.
I mean, again, with the one exception. Avatar.
I mean, but you know what? If you look at a lot of American cartoons, they're trying to be more like anime.
Mhm.
Like Avatar tries to be like anime.
Well, yeah, it took a lot of cues from that. I mean, it was based in a martial arts setting. It was based in a kind of very Eastern mythology almost.
And for those of you who've never watched Avatar, we're not talking about the blue people. Okay,
The Last Airbender.
we're talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender,
and not the god awful M. Night Shyamalan.
No,
thing.
we're not talking about the live action, but the live action on Netflix. So if you're interested in this, if you look on Netflix, Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's a live action on Netflix. It's actually pretty good. You should watch that.
And then you should watch the Nickelodeon one, which is actually fantastic.
To explain the show, and all of us we love that show. Avatar, each bending style, they have these powers where they're able to bend elements
Based off the 4 main elements.
Mm-hmm. So each one is based off a Chinese martial art. Water is based off of Tai Chi. Earth is based off of Southern Praying Mantis and Hungar, I believe.
Correct.
Airbending is based off of Bagua. And firebending is based off of Northern Shaolin.
Hence his firebending statement earlier.
So that's why a lot of times I associate Northern Shaolin with fire, because it is a great representation of, hey, like, we should be like fire in some respects. So while that show is not anime, it is very anime-esque. And it has actually become very popular around the world, that it is actually, there were 2 series. There was Avatar. There was Aang. There was Aang series. Avatar,
Avatar, Avatar: The Last Airbender,
and then the Legend of Korra.
Yes.
And
now there's going to be a third.
Yes, there's going to be.
And I don't remember what it's called.
I forgot what it's called, but they're going to be twin Earthbenders on this one. And then they're also going to do some movies, because they're going to do a movie where Aang and his gang. Aang is the main character. Aang and his character. So one thing about the show that's really good is you kind of see them mature throughout the show. And so you get to grow with these characters. So the things that they face in the show, you kind of can relate to in your own life, depending on where you are. And so now in the series, they've grown up, and they're going to have a movie where they're grown, and then they're going to show some of the other avatars. I think they're going to do a Kyoshi movie.
I've heard it. I don't know if it's confirmed.
Yeah,
so.
I think they're going to maybe do that. But either way, I guess let's quickly just discuss Avatar, since we talked about it. So anything about Avatar that you guys want to maybe talk about, since it relates to what we do?
So we've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but I want to stress how happy and how good I think it is that they took 4 different elements, assigned them to a style, and those particular style and element combos really do go together on a fundamental level. And what I mean by that is, so water was given to Tai Chi. And if you watch how Tai Chi moves, and if you watch what they do when they are actually bending the element and controlling the element, the moves make the element make sense.
It does.
Tai Chi is a very flow around, flow through element. And what I mean by that is if you're going to come at me with strength, yes, I'm going to yield, but I'm also going to manipulate you. And because of that, my strikes are going to be hard enough to hurt you, but I'm not obviously carrying power. Whereas flip the script onto the other side where you've got earthbenders where every earthbending step is slam into ground, make ground move, have this unbreakable stance type of movement. That's what they use to bend earth. And it's very different from what they use to bend water.
Right.
If you watch how the airbenders move, they are literally light as air. If you watch how a firebender does things, every punch is precise and passionate and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost, I don't want to say there's an anger behind it, but there is a force behind it. And those things made me really happy to see and to have denoted in the show more than anything else.
I know this sounds crazy, but I've actually used Avatar to help teach people certain things. Because it makes sense. The way they portray it makes sense.
When I talk to especially your generation age-wise, if I ask them, okay, yeah, I do Kung Fu, and they're like, oh, what does that look like? What does that mean? Cool. Have you seen Avatar? Half of them have. And my conversation just got a lot easier.
Yep. What about you, Khali? Any comments about Avatar? How it's maybe affected you?
So I like Avatar as an anime. Building upon what Brian said, I feel like I like the way they portray the different styles. I like the concept that, it's not easy to pick up one style over another. Aside from the titular avatar itself, you were either born an earthbender, born a waterbender, born a firebender, and you kind of stick to that lineage. And in order to get really good at those things, you kind of have to focus into that. And then there's some that will specialize in kind of adjacent styles to that by kind of tweaking things, like lightning bending and stuff like that. But ultimately, you can't go out and just learn all the styles because you're not going to be really any good at any of them. And the Avatar is seen as kind of this unique case where they have the aptitude to learn all of the styles, but very rarely do we see one that is, I would say, masterful at all of them equally. Normally they're born into a certain style, and that's the Avatar cycle. It moves around the clock. They're born into a certain style, and they are very, very good at that style, and then they are proficient at the adjacent styles. And it's also explained in Avatar that you will struggle the hardest with the style that is opposite yours. So in Aang, we see, by being an airbender, he struggles the most with learning firebending because that is the antithesis to his style. So it's a movement that's unnatural for him. It's something that he struggles with, and ultimately to accomplish his goal, he has to overcome that. But it kind of speaks truly to sometimes you have to overcome the things that, you feel like you aren't really built for in order to accomplish the goal that you set yourself out to do. Same thing with Korra. Korra, being born into the water tribe, struggled the most with earthbending. So you're going from a very fluid, very tactile form of fighting to one that's extremely rigid and grounded and solid. And when you're trying to learn those movements and also unlearning everything you've known up to that point while still retaining the things you've learned up to that point, it's kind of like a mental struggle inside your head. You're fighting with your own instincts to kind of adapt to the things that you have to learn there. So Avatar is really a good example of kind of finding your niche and being able to kind of pour yourself wholeheartedly into that, to become masterful at the thing that you are kind of an aptitude for. But on the other side, for those who kind of want to move outside of their aptitude, it is a really good example of kind of overcoming the challenges and setbacks that you may face just because of, the way that you were born or like your body style or things like that. And I'll get a little personal with this one, actually, while we're talking about it. There have been many times in my training here that I have felt that my body type is not built for Northern Shaolin. And I'll say that truthfully. I feel like being...
For those of you who can't tell, Khali is pretty tall, and obviously he's pretty wide and built.
Yeah. So
the man is strong. Don't let him fool you.
So me being 6'2" and anywhere between 280 and 300 pounds, given the day of the week, I've always found myself struggling with some of the more, I'll say, aerobic techniques in the system, whether it's butterflies, tornado kicks, sweeps, things of that nature, anything that requires exerting a lot of energy off the ground. Those are the things I struggle with. And I've kind of had coming to Jesus moments with myself where I'm thinking, is this the right style for me? Would I be better off picking a style that's more grounded, something that's more rigid, something that better complements my body type? And, it's something I've meditated on quite a bit. And I came to the conclusion that, I'm not here because I found this place first, but I'm here because it kind of called out to me. And I feel like sticking with that style is something that I am overcoming in a way where I don't let the things that I was born with define what I'm capable of. So I use that as an example of, maybe it is harder for me to jump and get off the ground and to do these really flexible, really long, drawn out movements. But because that's harder for me, it's going to be that much more meaningful when I accomplish those movements, and that was really what kind of put me to kind of sticking with it and powering through the things that I struggled with, because now it became a point of, okay, for someone of my size and stature, this isn't going to be easy, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean I have to give up on it. It just means I have to work harder. And it's always been that way. I've always been the person that has to work harder to lose weight. I've always been the person that has to work harder to build up cardio, to kind of build up aerobic exercise. And I've found caveats around that, sparring in particular. I find myself conserving energy as much as possible because I know that I have less energy to expend than my opponent. But when I do use my energy, it's impactful, it's thoughtful, it's calculated, So when I'm in a sparring match, I'm mostly just reading my opponent's movements. And then when I find an opportunity to expend the energy, I make it count, because it's you only got so much in the tank. And if you waste it, that's an opportunity you've lost, and you've kind of moved yourself kind of a step towards, I won't say defeat, but a learning moment, So I have found, shows like that in particular, where someone kind of finds something that they don't really have an aptitude for and kind of makes it work for them in a way where they succeed in spite of that, has worked really well for me. Another such show, which we already mentioned here, being My Hero Academia, you have the protagonist who has no aptitude for being a hero, for having superpowers and things like that. And it doesn't come easy to him, And I will say my hero specifically is supremely responsible for losing my words here. A lot of what I see in that show is very responsible for kind of like what I do in the gym, exercise wise, because I watched Midoriya kind of come from this scrawny, really skinny little kid and be given an opportunity to be great, but say, hey, you have this power, but your body's not built for it. And if you don't build yourself up, if you don't work towards being able to control this power, not only will it hurt you, it may even kill you. It's something you're going to have to work for. So watching that show and watching him struggle and watching him train every single day and work out and overcome his aptitude to do something that he really set his mind to do, is really what got me going into the gym super heavy, really got me getting into shape long term. Because I see that show and I watch someone kind of overcome their shortcomings and say, well, if he can do it, why can't I?
Right.
I understand it's a TV show. I understand he's a fictional character and that this isn't a real person that actually went out and put on 40 pounds of muscle in a summer, because that's not realistic. But it is a representation of what's possible. And I think that's what anime is all about. We take these grand concepts and they're really just kind of superimposed representations of things that we ourselves are capable of in real life. So we have to kind of take those concepts and bring them ground level and say, how can I aspire to this? What can I pull from this that will actually benefit me in my day-to-day life, will actually benefit me in the real world, and use that as my motivation to kind of overcome the things that are set against me and not, fall into excuses.
I like it. I like it a lot.
For me, you keep mentioning My Hero, and I really like that show because of My Hero does a great job of giving Midoriya the relentlessness he needs to actually succeed. You mentioned his aptitude. I'm gonna argue that it's his inaptitude that he has to overcome because he had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
All he had was, I'm gonna be really good at this. And for me, that show was really great for looking at somebody and going, okay, well, he had nothing. He chose something that was way beyond what he ever could have hoped to achieve. And he was given the means to do it. The problem is that the tools that he's got are way beyond his abilities. So now he has to bring his abilities to his tools. And that's kind of what you're learning with martial arts. You're learning all of these tools. You have all these tools put in front of you, and now you have to learn the ability to use them correctly.
I will build off of that now that you mention it. So
I was just trying to give you some words.
Yeah. Well, here's something about my hero that really didn't click for me until you said that just now. But the thing about Midoriya as a character is everything he did to build himself up to be able to handle that power, he could have done before he got it. So you have a character that wants to be a hero. He wants to save people. He wants to, kind of be there to help people. And ultimately, he finds out that it's not something that he has an aptitude for. So I won't say he gives up on his dream, but he kind of becomes disheartened by it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's given this aptitude, he realizes, great, I've got this power, but I've got to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like winning an inheritance. It's like, okay, we're going to give you $1 million over the course of 20 years. You're going to be trickled into it bit by bit. You're not just going to get it all at once. You kind of have to work for it. But the thing is that bar all that, if he was never given that opportunity to become a hero, he could have still done all of that work.
Mm-hmm.
He could have still done the training. He still could have done the body conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
He could have done the cardio. He could have done all of that. So I feel like a good takeaway from that is that, again, brand concept, bringing it ground level. You can't always wait for that moment to kind of appear and say, hey, this is what you're capable of, but you have to work for it. Because no one's going to hand that to you.
Sure.
No one's going to come to you and say, by the way, this is you in 10 years if you start training today. This is what's coming. You have to visualize that for yourself and realize, where could I be? Where would I be today if I started 10 years ago? Where will I be in 10 years if I start today? What's stopping me from making this movement towards my goal today and putting that into, something that I want for myself? So that's another thing about that show. It does a lot as far as inspiration, hard work, things of that nature goes. But I feel like, we can't always wait for that moment when your destiny becomes clear to you and that's your call to action. Sometimes you have to find it. You have to go out and look for it and find it yourself. I would say that's probably where a show like Hunter x Hunter steps in, where no one came to Gon and said, hey, Gon, this is your destiny, but you have to work for it. He went out and looked for it.
He was pretty much, I'm going to go do this now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything against him.
Screw everything else.
No natural talent. I won't say no natural talent, but no, he wasn't tall.
No knowledge of
fit.
the world.
Yeah. It was just, hey, I want to do this thing. And I understand that it's hard, but I'm not going to let that stop me. And he comes off as this really goofy, silly kid that's, kind of in and out of his own way. But when it comes to doing something, he resolves to do it and he doesn't let anything stop him. And he doesn't let any of the challenges in front of him stop him. I think a really good one is during the Hunter exam, towards the beginning of the show, when Gon is practicing with the fishing rod on how to sneak up on opponents and how to hide his presence and, basically give himself a leg up and being able to survive this really daunting task. And despite having really no formal training at all, at that point, no one.
He had none.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was no one guiding Gon. There was no one helping Gon but Gon. It was just, I got to figure this out, And with nothing but his wits behind him, he still made it work to his advantage and used that, to kind of build himself upon. And then as the show progresses, he meets people that teach him things and he takes those things to heart wholeheartedly and kind of applies them in ways that build upon the things he already learned naturally, because that's what he wanted to do. So he was the one that told himself, I'm going to put myself in the position to learn, and then found people that were willing to teach. But if he had never put himself out there, if he had never taken the Hunter exam at such a young age, a lot of the events that followed would have never played out for him. there were so many things that had to happen kind of precisely for Gon to even be in the situation to learn from the people he learned from, that all roll back to him making that one conscious decision to say that this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go out and do it today.
So I'm going to change gears a little bit because we've been talking about learning from people, and I have a question. Since you are, in fact, a teacher,
Yes.
specifically in martial arts,
Yes.
of our various and sundry conversations, I don't ever think I've asked you this.
Okay.
Who is a good anime teacher,
Ooh.
specifically for martial arts? But you can branch out into other things.
Oh my gosh, man! I've never thought about this. I never thought about it. Wow. Okay. So a good master.
Yes.
Because
as Quali was talking about that, it kind of made me think of, oh, well, he learned from Bisky, and oh, he learned from Netero, and oh, he learned from all of these people. All right, well, who do we consider a really good teacher as far as anime, especially martial arts, are concerned?
You're gonna laugh at me, but I think
probably.
I think she is an excellent teacher, even if it is in very strange ways. But the care and emotion that this character shows in this show does a good job, and she changes the main character to the point where
I think I know who
he becomes a completely different person. And I would say the best teacher I would think that I have seen in anime. I mean, there's some top ones now, but I'm going to name this one. I think is going to be Genkai.
I knew you were going to say it.
I think it's Genkai because Genkai.
For those of you who don't know, Genkai is the teacher in Yu Yu Hakusho for the main character.
Yes. So and Yusuke in the show is a punk, and he is shown to be a punk. He is not very skilled. He's just tough.
He's just tough.
He's just tough.
Like, he is strong.
His literal like ability is how to get beat up, and I can take a beating and keep fighting back. But Genkai changes him into an actual like martial artist in a sense.
Yeah.
Where he can actually use that toughness that he has, but he can hone it. And I don't think she ever changes him like his personality per se, because she's kind of rough around the edges too. So
they
get along like that.
Him.
Yeah, she does. But she makes him better, and he ends up respecting her and loving her for that. And he realizes why she is the way she is and why she treats him the way she does. But because of that treatment, he was able to face certain aspects and certain enemies in the show that he probably would have easily died from if she wasn't as hard on him.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that she is like one of the best, anime masters that I think of. And then while this is not an anime, I'm gonna give another quick shout out to Uncle Iroh. I think Uncle Iroh is in Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great example of somebody who's humble yet still fierce.
I completely agree with that. My thing for Iroh is he's not there to teach you how to fight. He's there to teach you how to be a better person.
Right. But when you see Iroh in the show, nobody really knows how strong he is until he finally unleashes, and that man is a beast.
Oh yeah, no. It's kind of funny because Iroh in the show, for those of you who don't know, he's old. This is a show full of kids. They all missed his generation of fighting. They don't understand how he failed at what he was supposed to do and why he's just kind of this guy. But if you pay attention, all of the older people kind of respect him.
Oh yeah, they're scared of him. They're terrified of him, actually.
And then he finally gets the chance to show off to some of these younger soldiers that are taking over, and everybody's like, damn.
And the thing about Iroh that I really like, and Genkai too, is that they are older characters and they realize that they're older, but they're still strong. They're still fierce.
Well, that's an anime trope.
It is, but but it's
if
a martial arts trope
in
too.
an anime, if you're ever in an anime, well, it's martial arts too.
It's a martial arts
and you meet
trope.
the old guy. He's the strongest one in the room.
And and sometimes in the martial arts school, you look at the guy, you go, oh, that guy's not that strong.
Is he the old guy? He's probably the best one.
I mean,
with the exception of Satoru Gojo, of course.
Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Goju? What did you say? Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Goju, or are you
Satoru Goju because you're the
strongest? Yes.
Yeah. I will say, I'll build on that. I think this line comes from Breaking Bad. I don't remember what show it came from, but the line was, "Always fear the old man in a position where men die young."
So, yeah, there's another way I heard it. It's there are old thieves and there are bold thieves, but there are never any old bold thieves, implying that to be good at your craft, you have to be smart, and only the smart ones are the ones that are old.
Well, I definitely feel like, now that I'm not old, but being older now than a lot of people in the school. I got a few gray hairs. Being older than some of the people in the school now, I do find myself trying to be. I can relate to when I watch an anime. I relate to the teachers more because I do find myself in those positions where you're trying to help somebody reach a potential that sometimes they don't even know that they may have. And then also looking at yourself and saying, hey, I still have potential too. I still can get stronger. I still can be better. I can still reach a higher level in what I'm doing. So I don't have to be complacent. But yeah, so any closing thoughts before we close out this podcast about anime and martial arts? Because wow, this got a lot deeper than I ever expected it to get. I was like, oh yeah, we're just gonna talk about anime and
welcome to Anime Philosophy 101.
Yes, so guys, yeah. So if you've never watched anime, there's probably an anime out there for you.
There is.
So okay, last thought, real quick. I want you to tell the listeners an anime that is martial arts based that you think that they should watch that maybe they haven't watched.
Like strictly martial arts based,
or something that will help them on their martial arts journey. Let's say that.
That's a good one.
Damn. Okay.
We'll start with Brian and circle back.
Okay. All right.
Ready for that
all right, Brian, you go.
All right. So real quick then, I'm going to ignore all the ones that we've already mentioned because I think that should speak for itself that we've already talked about them.
Okay.
So quick recap then, you're going to have Yu Yu Hakusho, you're going to have My Hero, you're going to have Avatar The Last Airbender, Hunter x Hunter, Dragon Ball, and I feel like I'm forgetting one. Kenichi. So we've covered those 6. Those are 6 to really get you started. I think if I'm going to then pick something else, I'm going to pick something with a really good teacher. The problem is that my first 3 we've already covered.
Okay.
So I'm going to reach a little further back and I'm actually going to pick Bleach.
Okay. So you pick Bleach.
So it kind of came to me as soon as I passed the mic to Brian. But,
yeah, you saw me stalling there.
Well, so this is kind of unconventional in terms of a martial arts anime, but I'm going to pick this one specifically because a lot of my fighting philosophy comes from this show, but it's going to be Vinland Saga.
That's fair.
Yeah. So Vinland Saga is a really good show that starts off with a character that's on a path for revenge. And then after gaining his revenge, he kind of finds himself empty. And kind of broken because of it almost. And he spends all his time from there kind of seeking redemption for all the terrible things he did to earn that revenge, and ultimately ends up picking a life of nonviolence. And after watching Vinland Saga, it kind of changed my philosophy about a lot of things, specifically about sparring. One of my goals as a martial artist is to win at Kwoshu, at Leitai, without injuring my opponent.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be so thoughtful about the way that I present myself, that it is clear that I was the better fighter there, but I didn't have to give in to emotion in a way that caused injury to the person that I'm exchanging blows with. And that philosophy came from Vinland Saga. So that's going to be my pick.
Well, we're about to run out of time. So I'm not going to give you my pick.
Don't you dare.
No, I can't.
Let's go.
I can't because
yeah, you can.
We can go into overtime.
Oh no, it's not because
no.
Joe's gonna have to edit this part because we're about to have this beeper's about to go off that you hear in the background.
That's fine. I'll be right back.
Hold on.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Joe's gonna have to edit that part.
It'll be fine. Keep going.
Okay, so all right, who? Man, all
Here,
right.
I'll give an explanation as to why I picked Bleach so you can stall some more.
Okay, go ahead.
So I picked Bleach not because of any real martial art ability, but because of the strategy involved.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically with characters like Uryu, with Urahara, who have to, Urahara picked Ichigo up and he's like, look, I'm going to teach you how to do these things and I'm going to teach you how to do them right now because we're dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Uryu because he was not the strongest one. And we talked about that earlier, but he had to think his way out of so many problems. And he had to have the plan of, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and this. And I'm going to hide all these things to set up this really big, cool move. And oh, look, it killed you and I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And I like those things because that's how fighting will have to work. I'm not going to always score, win, live off of the big move. I'm going to have to hide it better. I'm going to have to employ some strategy. It is why I pick Hunter x Hunter and Bleach as two really good shows for strategy because they focus on that. And it's why I like them both better than Dragon Ball. Yeah, I'm taking the dig at you. Now, I've stalled as long as I can, so figure it out, old man.
Oh my gosh, I've watched so many, and
I know
this one's hard to. This is actually a hard question. Dang it!
Look, we just eliminated like 7 or 8 anime.
I know, and some of the ones that I want to say obviously are my favorite, but I don't want to mention one that we've talked about. But I will say
Demon Slayer. We mentioned Demon Slayer.
I know, and I don't want to mention that one because I mean I love Demon Slayer, but I don't want to mention that one. I would say, digging in my bag.
You know, there's a really good anime about martial arts that we haven't mentioned yet.
There's like 4.
I mean, there's a bunch of them actually.
Well, I'll give you another hint. Boxing specifically.
You mean Hajime no Ippo? I haven't. Okay, I've never watched Hajime no Ippo, but I hear it's really good.
It is good.
I hear Hajime no Ippo is really good. Jeez. Okay, so I'm gonna throw one out. I'm actually kind of drawing a blank on this question, but I think I'm gonna find a. I don't know. Y'all talk for a second. Give me a second.
I'm going to throw him a bone. Have you considered Full Metal?
No, I have never watched Full Metal.
Oh, that's right.
I have never watched Full Metal. I keep
beating that over the head with you.
I have never watched Full Metal. Give me a second.
Yeah, that's honestly surprising.
I need to watch that.
I keep telling him it's one of the best anime in existence, and you haven't watched it.
I have not.
But watch Brotherhood because it's better.
I've heard that's good, but I just need something to kind of to spark my mind.
It's not Solo Leveling. I can tell you that.
I love Solo Leveling.
I know.
Solo aura farming.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it is, but it's definitely not like
I am better than you.
That's not a good martial arts anime in the sense of it's just like, you know, I'm kind of cheating to become stronger.
It's a good I want to get hyped today anime.
Yeah, it is. It was really pretty.
Cool.
I don't know what else to tell you. I mean,
I know, man. It's really difficult right now. I don't know. I'm gonna go with.
Think about your top 10 and go from there.
Yeah, and I am, but a lot of the ones that you named are in my top 10.
I know.
But I will say one that is it's not really martial arts based, but I do think it has a lot of good well, it's entertaining. I guess Fairy Tail.
The power of friendship will beat everything.
I guess Fairy Tail. It keeps popping in my head. But I didn't want to use that one because that is very like Dragon Ball-esque in some respects.
I know.
Not really martial arts based per se. But I mean, it's a good show.
Have you not seen Black Clover either?
I haven't watched it yet. I want to watch it. I haven't watched it yet. I'm not touching One Piece. Too many episodes. That is strange for me to say, but that has too many episodes. I am not touching that. Geez, nowadays I'm not even a fan of like when anime has like hundreds and hundreds of episodes, and Black Clover has a lot of episodes because I know that's going to be a trek to watch. Fairy Tail was a trek to watch. Yeah, that's what you say. But when you're working full time and you're trying to do all this other stuff, man, watching 100, 200, 300 episodes is difficult nowadays.
Short-sighted.
Oh, okay. I got you. So
you must plan longer ahead.
I would say maybe, yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't pick Ronin Warriors.
I was thinking about it, because I love Ronin Warriors. But Ronin Warriors is not especially the older series. Yes, it's got some martial arts in it a little bit, but it's not as it didn't have as much substance as it does today. So Ronin Warriors or your Ronin Shinden Samurai Troopers came back. So they do have a sequel series that's going on right now that I absolutely love. This show has totally transformed what the old Ronin Warriors were to the new age, and it is phenomenal. It's good. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I don't know. Back then, I wouldn't consider that something that it was like, like I learned a life lesson from Ronin Warriors today.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
While we're here, I will just throw one out that has really good martial arts choreography, but really kind of lacks on the martial arts philosophy. Because at the time, in the scope of the show, all the characters are already kind of masters of their craft, so you don't ever really see them build up to it. But Samurai Champloo.
I never watched the whole thing. I only seen a few episodes.
You have to watch it, and it's very short.
It's short.
24 episodes. It's an extremely short,
really good.
Yeah, really short, really good series that's very self-contained, and it contains probably some of the best choreographed fight scenes out of any show of its era.
I heard it's
by
good.
far.
I remember watching it. The animation is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. See, now you're going to make me think about this, and now I got to give a better answer than Fairy Tail, because Fairy Tail's okay, but like, I don't know. I got to really think about it, because
we keep handing you gold nuggets.
I know, but none of them are speaking to me. All the ones that I really like, we already talked about. And
he's a very simple man.
I am simple. I am, and I like what I like. But I don't know. I have to go back and really, really take a look at a lot of the anime that I watched, because I watched a lot, but I'm not really thinking of one right now that's like, oh yeah, that one. I don't know. Anybody have anything else about anime and martial arts that we can throw out before we end this topic?
I could probably talk for another hour. So.
I know. We might have
we
to
all could.
I'm gonna cut myself short.
We may have to do another part 2.
We're stopping here. It's good. Watch some of what we've recommended. Don't even watch all of it if you can't. But I encourage you to, especially those of you who may come across this and are like, anime, no, that's not for me. Yes, it is. The ones you have seen may not be. But I guarantee you there is a show somewhere that will speak to you, that you will enjoy, and I encourage you to watch it.
Well,
experiment, try new things.
If you've never watched anime and you do martial arts, I think you should. I think you'll like it. It's not for everybody, but I think a lot of people, it's funny that you find a lot of people in the martial arts community really like anime, and I think it speaks to them. Obviously, we do.
Because we're nerds.
But a lot of martial artists are nerds. Most of us are nerds. I think some of the best martial artists are nerds.
Oh, very.
Heck, real quick, Israel Adesanya, I mean, they call him the style bender. Obviously, Avatar. I mean, they do. And if you watch him, sometimes he'll do like the Rock Lee pose. He does.
Isn't he the one that does the hand signs too?
He might do the hand signs. Like, he is an anime nerd.
I think he did the hand signs when he won, and if it's the same guy I'm thinking about.
Yeah. So there's a lot of martial artists out there that they're nerds and they like anime and stuff, and it's kind of cool because now you're seeing it seep into high level sports. Yeah, look, I was just about to say that actually. There are so many people wearing Naruto headbands, referencing Dragon Ball.
The One Piece pose.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're all doing that, and these are high level athletes. So I mean, obviously anime is inspiring some of the, greatest people on the planet. So maybe it can inspire you guys. So again, this is Martial Mentality. And thank you guys for being on. We are signing out. Peace.